And hello, everybody. It's I, the Roguescaper here. Sorry for the brief delay. Had some audio issues, as is part of the course. But I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and stuffed yourself full of turkey and other buttery delights. I know I ate far too much, and still kind of been sleepy the last couple of days. But we will be painting with kind of the onset of the cool season. That chilly weather outside. A chili bear to go along with the weather. A very apropos, I felt like. We have Irene here. If you notice, I did start doing the armor before the stream. That was just because I just kind of had it in the line and didn't realize I put in some paint on it. We just use a bright silver on this, but we'll be kind of getting to the more difficult parts of this, which is the fur and the leather. So we'll see kind of how much we can kind of get done today on this mini Monday. Lots of holiday deals going around. Hopefully you're grabbing yourself some Scape to play over your breaks. I know I snagged a couple deals, and I'm really looking forward to getting those bugs on the table. I'll tell you that. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it. And let me just make sure my chat's up here. And okay, so we are painting Knight Irene. This is a Earth sign from the Master Set. And, she's an old bear. She's an old grumpy bear. So we're going to give her kind of a very dark tone. Just zoom this out just a bit here. Sorry, we are slightly out of the frame, so I'm going to fix that. Okay, perfect. I caught up on me today. So, yeah, so she's an old grumpy bear, so we are wanting to make sure that she is appropriately kind of gray and battle-worn, and we'll be working on kind of building up from there. So we're starting off with a uniform gray from Pro Acryl. You can use really any dark gray as its base. If you notice, I primed white. That's just to really kind of make this process easier. I like to start with black typically, but since most of the bear is white, this is really just saves us a lot of time of building up these brighter colors. I was torn between using kind of a speed paint method and this kind of standard acrylic building up formula for today. I like this formula as I've done it a couple times, but this is a great model to work with speed paint as well. And we're just adding this to the figure and getting a nice thin gray layer just to really start us off. Honestly, if I was to redo this over again, I'd probably just start with a dark gray and kind of build up from there. But it's not going to play too much of an impact on what we're doing today. And very excited to see how to paint fur. How I haven't tried it yet. Yeah, it's fur is a bit tricky, but once you kind of figure it out, it's pretty fun. You got to break out the dry brushes and really just let the texture do the work for you, which is really great. And we're applying this somewhat thin so we don't clog up the details, but we're just, we're not having to thin this down as this is our first base layer, just to really kind of set the tone for the shadows. Frame here. Kind of recovering from the the holidays, so it's all over the place here. I apologize about that, but that's just part of it. All right, so let's keep on going here. So we are just kind of outlining this fur, and using like a medium-sized brush. Since Irene is so big, you really don't want to use a small, tiny brush, as that will just take all day. Let's make sure. Just kind of coloring by numbers in at this point. The hardest part for me, I always tend to overlook like the armpits and the underside of the models, just because I'm always looking at it kind of from like a top-down angle. Definitely make sure have your model on a holder or some kind of just move it around, so you don't miss the undersides until they're on the battlefield. You crouch down, you're like, oh wait, half my model's unpainted. I love this model. It's really imposing and just kind of a presence on the battlefield. I've lost several games to Irene, so definitely don't underestimate her. Just a nice frosty polar bear for this cold time. I'm using a different formula than if you follow my channel, where I kind of painted the frost claws. I wanted the frost claws to look really kind of young and vibrant, so I gave them more of a kind of a tannish tone. I did a little bit research into polar bears. On their fur, they get more gray as they get older. So I really want these dark undertones to kind of show through, which is why we're kind of starting from a darker base than what we normally would. Fun fact about polar bears, their fur is actually transparent. It's largely determined by its surroundings, is the color. They have a very dark underbody, and their light pretty much has a way of just catching, their fur has a way of catching light and refracting it. So it's really what you're seeing is more of an optical illusion compared to a actual like pure white fur. Fun little polar bear fact for your day. And let's see here. So we're gonna wait for that to kind of dry. We're gonna work on the coat, the little, the stylish jacket she wears, and we're going to take some dark blue from Pro Krill and mix a bit of this gray into it just to make it slightly desaturated. And we're going to kind of thin this down and just color in the coat. I don't always prime in white. What color prime is always kind of a matter of discussion and a little bit of discourse, but it does certainly make the process go faster. I've been experimenting with different prime colors for a bit now, and they all have their benefits and downsides. I really like starting with a dark layer of black just because it really helps fill those shadows in. But I do like how priming in white, one, makes brighter colors just easier to do, and also just really makes it go a lot faster. So if you're looking to get models done fast, for the most part, you want to do a light primer, especially if you're using speed paints. If you're diving into that, which is a great way to begin your painting journey, use as bright white as you can get for the best, most clear results. There's some artists out there who do really great work with speed paints. It's just a different medium. You have to have it as a tool in your toolbox. There's a artist called Don Zeratos who does like a really crazy stuff with speed paints on his models. I love watching him work, but you just kind of got to get used to the flow and the kind of the way it goes on the model, and it's like any tool. You kind of gotta practice a bit before you get good at it. So I'm still kind of in the haven't fully figured out how to use them to their best ability phase yet. But I really like them. I've been using them a lot for glazes and kind of filters on models if I kind of want to shift the color down a bit or kind of blend some colors. They work really good for that as well. They also work really good if you just want to get some paint on a model and get them all painted up. But I'm old school. I practice on just plain acrylics. I like acrylics because you have a bit of control on the texture and the flow of the model, which I like. Call me a control freak, but I just like having this control. And then we are going to get the pants done as well. We're going to look for a nice dark, like a different color blue for this, or like more of like a wolf gray. And we're going to use wolf gray from Fnatic and mix that in with just a bit of black here, just to make it kind of nice and dull. If I could find where I put my black paint at. Actually, we'll just use blue black because I have that pre-mixed already from ProAcryl. Bit more of a gray, darker tone for the pants. We all gotta get good at painting bears because we got a lot more coming. We got these guys come. We got the Ordo coming with their harpoon guns, and then we have Oberon. Oh, and not Oberon. Oh, what's the big guy's name? Is it Oberon? Or am I getting them all mixed up? Alderburn. That's it. Alderburn. We got Alderburn coming, and he's a tank. He is a menace. I am looking forward to fielding him. Well, rather my brother-in-law is. He's a fan of the Bears and likes to play them a lot. But he's like, man, they could really use a heavy hitter, and I'm just like, just wait. They got someone that is making me a little scared. In a good way. I like when heroes feel very powerful, but not like game-breakingly so, but just like, oh yeah, this guy's got a bit of heft to him. He's got a bit of a fear potential. I think all the bears are very good at that. I hope this isn't the last of the bears we get. I hope we do get some more. Even if they're not polar bears, and there's so many different species. You know, the bios mentioned the grizzle claws or the gnarl fangs, I think is what they're called. Uh, some angry bears opposing these guys. and you know, I'm looking forward to have those guys as playable units. Amongst others. Focus here. Just a bit. All right. That's the hardest part about painting live is the focus. You always got to be aware of that, but also got to talk and paint at the same time. So that's the juggling act you have to go through. Always kind of adjusting and looking out for it. When I'm not live, I have a little video monitor I look at, which is helpful. I can kind of stare at that the whole time. Live is a bit more. Just gotta be patient. Don't forget the little gray fur here on the, peeking out underneath the armor, such. This model you want to really pay attention to where the coat fur begins and where the actual fur of the model kind of ends. Just so you can, you want to use those. We're going to paint those in different tones, just so they really stand apart from each other. And we'll just add in another layer to this gray here, making sure we have it all covered. Fully filled in. The base layer is probably the least exciting part of the painting process. It's kind of where you block in all your colors. But if you're patient with it and set a really good foundation, it makes all the following steps really easy and really fun. Base layer isn't bad. It's just you want to be a bit more particular about filling in all those gaps and spaces. There's actually not a lot of tutorials for white fur on YouTube that I've been able to find. There's a couple here and there, but no like really big ones out there. Okay, so we're getting there. And I'm working in a manner where I can kind of get parts painted off and then kind of go back to other parts, since I am working on only one model. But if you're painting kind of all your Frost Claws and Irene at the same time, it does make the process a bit faster because you can work on other parts of other models while you're painting. Waiting for the layers to dry. Now these tube things here always give me a bit of problem on the model, just because the paint wants to kind of slide into them and kind of kind of fill it up with your paint. This paint naturally kind of wants to flow downward if you have it pretty thin. So just be aware of that. Make sure that you don't get too much on. Kind of spread it around if it does, so you don't lose those little lines and details on on those little pipe tube things in the back. No, I'm just making sure. Doing one last once over. Don't want to see any white spots coming through. The spot where the ear is going to connect with the back fur, really make sure you get that all filled in, as it's easy to kind of miss it. If you notice some of the areas I haven't really painted yet, I'm being a little messy. I'm not caring too much if I get a little bit of paint on it, because I know I'm going to cover it up. So with each progressive layer, I'm going to be more and more cautious, take a little bit more time. But now we're just being casual, just filling in layers, kind of coloring by number almost. I read through the new scenario for that that just dropped today. Got some really fun stuff, some multiplayer options with more than two people. That scale's really nice. I like that we're taking the viewpoint from Solid, which I think is really cool. Poor Ular, my favorite general, is he seems like he's going through a bit of a midlife crisis, you know. At this point, I think it's called poisoning, but he doesn't seem to be doing the best. And I sent him my thoughts and prayers, really hoping that he gets better soon. Um, but it's interesting. I'm excited to see where the narrative goes. I like that they mentioned, you know, for original Heroscape fans. So the scenario mentions Mygel, which is one of my favorite scenarios from the classic book, Mygel's Tomb. Um, and I'm excited to see him make a return. And yeah, it's just fun stuff. I look forward to those, get little bits of lore and excitement. I think my kids are coming in, so I apologize for any noise. I have I have two toddlers that just turned 4 recently, and a 5-year-old. So you know my house is not quiet too often. All right, so we got this kind of blocked in. We're gonna do the fur and the armor plates after this, but let's go to the next layer. Next, we are going to get some gargoyle gray and mix that with our uniform gray. Gargoyle gray is from Army Painter. And we're going to mix these colors to create kind of a nice little mid-tone here. And then kind of go before we go right into that. There we go. I like gargoyle gray. It has a bit of a warm tone to it. I like to do kind of a more of a neutral tone to a warm tone. And we are just going to kind of bit of texture and disruption to this fur here. I'm using a dotting motion just to kind of speckle it. And really just focusing on the highlights. Really focusing on the eyebrows and the top of the head. And it doesn't look very good now. This is more of a mid-tone layer. This is going to help me immensely kind of bridge these layers in my head. Perfect age to teach them to paint minis. Yeah, they work with that in that regard. I have a whole box of 3D printed stuff that they call their guys. They're like, they walk in, they say, "Can we paint our guys?" And they got their own acrylics. So, I'm teaching them. I'm hoping that they take over for me, and I can retire on a grateful galaxy. And if you notice, I'm just kind of spinning this around. It's a really thin layer. I thinned this down, so it just goes on top of this. This is going to add a really subtle use of these tones to this model when we get to these lighter colors. While we still preserve the shadows, the contrast isn't as stark here. Brush. And we might put 2 layers of this. But this time we're going to add just a bit more of this gargoyle gray to the mix. The Roguescaper legacy. Yes. They'll have to paint minis for me from now on the channel. Next Mini Monday, my kids will be. Not really, but it's a fun thought. And notice with this layer afterwards, it's just getting a bit brighter. And we're really just kind of focusing on the areas we want to accentuate here. We're just thinking, where is the light kind of going on this thing? You want to focus on the outermost ridges, the ears, kind of the eyebrows, snout, and a bit of kind of the upper cheekbones. Just kind of fill it in until it looks kind of good like this. I'm using a dotting motion called stippling to kind of blend these 2 colors together a bit more. Could also just kind of dry brush this part as well. This is just getting us a subtle warm tone to this when we get to some cooler, brighter colors. Now, if you want to save time, you can, of course, just kind of base with this color and avoid the dark gray. But I just kind of like this subtle shift to warm, cool colors, colors that have more of colors have inherent temperatures to them. So cool colors are just colors that have scientifically a cooler temperature. Those are your blues, your greens, your your colors you associate with kind of coldness, mentally. Um, some grays, but just kind of has, usually they have a bluish or tint or color to them. Uh, and then kind of adding a warm color over that, colors with yellows or reds, adds a nice bit of contrast. And when you're painting, you're always looking to kind of find ways to highlight the contrast the best you can. More contrast, the more your brain's like, oh, this is a delicious image I'm seeing. I can see its shapes and understand what it is. Your brain is always in a search for contrast. So if you can put that in into your paintings, it really catches the eyes. So you can do that by color, by shapes or material, texture. There's a lot of different ways to kind of bring it to your model. And right now we're just using kind of these two opposing colors to really start bringing that into it. All right. Wash your brush out. And now we are going to get some light gray from Pro Acryl. Kind of set my palette up beforehand. But we're going to use this color here, light gray. And I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of that gargoyle gray we used. Just a tiny bit, just to kind of blend it a bit better. And this time, we're going to use more of a dry brush motion. So we're going to I like it when my dry brush paints are a little bit wet for this, but you can also just do on a full-on dry palette and remove a lot of the excess and just kind of go against the texture in the model. Notice I'm going against the lines. Really bringing out these fur. You notice I didn't even bother painting the nose yet because I know most likely I'm going to hit it with my dry brush. And it's catching the raised surfaces and textures here. And you can layer up dry brush, so if it's not appearing as bright as you want it, you can just go through another pass on the areas you want to focus on. Really catch those raised surfaces here. And we're still working in grays. We haven't added any white to this yet, but you can see we're just slowly building up these colors. And if you're new to painting, you can also probably do this part first. It's what I would recommend before you block in the other colors, because odds are you might hit them with your dry brush and have to repaint it. But I kind of like it because it adds a bit of texture to the material, which is always good. I'm always looking for ways to add texture. Okay, and now I'm going to take Bold Titanium White. It's a really great color to have in your palette. It's just a very strong, powerful white. And we are going to mix that in with that light gray we just used. About 50-50, 75-25 ratio. And get this last dry brush layer going. On the head, you may notice that kind of nature of the model, that you're catching too much of the light. you can kind of dab your brush and kind of blend it in, and we are going to blend this in a bit more in later steps. And you want to use this part really light, really subtle, just to kind of catch the most raised surfaces here. My brush, that's not good. You want to watch out if your dry brush kind of comes on very thick. That means you didn't remove enough, and it's recommended that you try to pick it up. If not, you might want to go through the spot steps again and kind of relayer it. Because like right here, I went on a bit too thick. I'm gonna have to fix that probably a little bit here. And then last step, we are just going to bring out some of the details. We're going to go down to more of a smaller brush and just use that pure bold titanium white and really just work on some of these little details. Now, things that we really want to pop. You want to be very subtle with this, as too much will kind of get rid of the hard work, but just a little bit here and there, bringing out some hairs. Some eyebrows, I like to go on the eyebrows just to bring those up a bit. Just some simple lines to really catch your eye a bit more. While still maintaining these shadows. You don't want to overdo it. Just really think, what part of the model do I really want to draw focus to? You know, what are some stories I can tell? You know, you can add little draw some simple straight lines around the muzzle, make it look like fur. Again, this is an optional part. If you don't want to do this, you can just do a very thin dry brush with pure white, but very, very cleared off, as you don't want to overshadow it. You want all that other layers we kind of did to still show through. Once you kind of have white, like pure white on your model, it's really kind of means it's the end of the line. There's nowhere else to go up. You have to start either working your way back down or kind of figure out how to add some more of that contrast and texture to your model. So here's how we're looking so far. We're going to add some more details and you know, get the mouth and all that stuff going, but it's very subtle. I really love how subtle this method is. If you want, you can kind of blend some of the colors together a bit more by using like a transparent white. Let's see if I have one nearby. Procro produces some really cool transparent colors. You can also use speed paint, like a thinned down white speed paint will really kind of make this sing. While I look for that, I'm going to do some other layers on this thing. If I can find where I put my paints. grabbing all my paints. I have a system, I just haven't figured it out yet. Alright, so we're gonna grab some dark silver from Pro Acryl. This is one of my favorite dark silvers to use, but you can use like a gunmetal mixed with a little bit of black from Army Painter. Uh, really your choice of metals, but I like how smooth this comes on. And I've decided while I was painting this, I'm going to make this a bit darker to make the whites, white fur really pop out. I just like how smooth this paint comes on and how reflective it is. There's a high mica and pigment density to it. Now, for metallic paints, you typically don't want to add too much water to your brush or to the mix. As I mentioned, they have something called mica, which is our glittery fragments inside of the paint mixture. That too much water typically causes them to kind of spread out and dissolve, essentially, or dissipate rather. So you just want to use just a small bit to maintain moisture and it flows. But definitely don't overdo it. Thin it far less than your other paints. I'm just painting all the hands. It's one thing. And I will pick out those details. Individual details in a little bit. But you can tell that using this darker tone really accents the white fur. It didn't probably look like I did much on it originally. That's why I was like, oh, I need to darken this this metal just to make sure it pops and shows through. Now this would be a fun model to try a non-metallic metal with. It's a thing I've been practicing lately. There's some really good kind of highlight points and areas that you can draw focus to. But, you know, for Heroscape, I honestly like using just plain metallics as, you know, it's classic, it's vintage, you know. I like to use washes and um, metallics for all the Heroscape stuff I paint. One, just because it's easier. I got a lot of it to paint. Two, it just kind of matches the aesthetic of the rest of the models. And we're just going in with this metallic paint, being very careful not to get it onto the beautiful fur that we've layered up so far. I don't know if the camera is picking it up. Let me see if I can get closer to it, but I really like just the subtlety of the fur. Once this dries, all dries, I want to make sure it's completely dry. I'm going to take that white and add some scars and some scratches to the muzzle and stuff like that, just to really add some detail. That might be something I don't do live just because that requires a little bit of focus. I won't be able to talk too much. You want to make sure you get between the fingies. And we're just going around. When I paint, I'm kind of all over the place, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's when I do tutorials, I gotta kind of remind myself that not everyone thinks how my brain works, which is, oh, here's the thing I want to paint, here's the thing I want to paint. Typically you want to kind of do this in order, one step at a time, and kind of take your time with each one. But, it doesn't hurt to be able to practice kind of painting and then move to additional layer. It's not a bad skill to have in your tool set. The main thing we're looking for is no white showing underneath. Right here is a big old spot we missed. Just turn the model upside down. Once again, getting these tricky spots. This is just a PVC pipe and Gorilla Sticky Tack. It is a $2 solution to my problem. You of course can get like paint holders from branded or printed. They have a lot of files for those online, but I definitely do recommend that you get one or get a couple if you plan on painting multiple units at a time, as there's nothing worse than oh, I finished this model and you have a bit of white on your thumb or a bit of color and you just put it right there. That is just never a good day. And so, got the shoulder pad here. Yeah, I'm glad we went for a darker color in this. One, I think it matches the card art a bit better. And once again, we are imposing this contrast onto this model, dark tones, light tones. And this isn't certainly not the most fast way to paint this model. That'd take a bit more time and kind of go through a different method. There's plenty of fast ways to get this model done even faster. If you're looking for something just a bit more table ready, a bit more just let's get some color on it. You can use any or all of these steps to your figure, and you know, just use other simpler methods for whatever else you like. I mean, you can spray paint it white and do a very thin black wash on the fur, and you can call it a day if you really don't want to mess with it. Um, a white wash or just thin down gray paint and apply it over. Those are all available options, and they work really fast, and some have very good results. This is more kind of a classic method to build up fur and build up colors, which is a really good skill to practice if you're on your painting journey. I'm going to move down to a slightly smaller brush for these parts here because they're thin and small. Not too small, mind you. I don't want to use my super fine detail brush on this, but the brush I had just a tiny bit of a bit too big head. It was more for broad surface application. This one's just a bit more precise. These are all workhorse brushes, though. None of these are really fancy sables or anything like that. They're just brushes I have on hand. This is a Flanix from Game Envy, which I like their lines. They got really solid, sturdy synthetics. And if you're looking for a wet palette, that's more than just a sponge and a Tupperware, then they have some really good options backed as well. Of course, isn't affiliated with this or anything, but if you're wanting to know what I'm using currently, I like their products. Every paint brand and paint company has something to offer, and maybe it's what you're looking for. Let's go. Make sure you get the edge of the armors as well as those edges sometimes can avoid being caught by paint. Just give me this little. I said these hoses are my enemies. All right, but focus, you can get them done. Very carefully. Notice like the edge of this band here. Try not to get it on the arm. you notice you're painting and the brush is kind of the paint sticking to the brush, that means there's not enough moisture there. I noticed I was painting, it was getting kind of dry and just kind of not flowing off the brush. That means you just need to re-wet your brush just slightly, remove all the excess, just to keep the paint kind of fresh and from drying out. I'm working with a heater behind me because it's cold where I'm at, and I imagine that's kind of making my paint evaporate a bit faster than I'm used to. Okay, we are going to use some speed paint actually for this main area, just to kind of give this a finished look. And I think we'll be good with the basic steps for tonight. We'll have to go through and do the mouth, the teeth. Well, let's do the mouth at first. While I look for my paints here. So we are going to use like Drake's Tooth, which is a nice kind of warm tone for the teeth. And let's get a nice reddish black for the inside of the mouth. We're going to use Chaotic Red for the inside of the mouth from Army Painter, mixed with a bit of Warp and Fury just to give it a bit more of a brighter tone. Keep this very thin. And just apply this to the inside of the mouth. I made it a bit brighter than the actual polar bear's mouth, just because I really wanted it to pop out a bit more. Use that Drake's Tooth, a very fine tipped brush. Give Irene some old yellow teeth. Yellowish white teeth. So, we'll tend to hate white. Just do the outer edges. I'll have to clean that up. Am I still going live, or has I think I'm still here. Okay. Exile. Late. Oh, I guess I started. I started about an hour ago, so I just you made me you made me think I wasn't live for a second. I was like, oh, did I drop out? But no, I guess I'm kind of fast. I do this a lot, so to me, I feel like I'm going super slow right now. So, all right, what color are Irene's eyes? So we're gonna actually get like a light color blue because I like the idea that one of her eyes is kind of blind, glossed over. But welcome to the stream regardless. It's good to see you all. Good to hear from you. The stream has been graced with your presence. And we're going to choose that dark blue that we've been using. Very delicately put these into the eyes. Around that raised area. While it's on my mind, let's film these pants because I forgot a part. If you notice your brush is a bit too heavily loaded, definitely make sure that you remove it. When I was painting, I was like, oh wait, I think I missed a big section right here. So I'm just going through, I'm tidying it up a bit. It's tricky little spots that have evaded me. And what's been my favorite model to paint so far? That is a good question. Can I just say the Hellforge because it made me feel special? But that one was pretty fun. Honestly, I did a alt color scheme for the Iron Lich, which has been really fun to paint. This one was really just fun to get some color on. I like the Isonex a lot. They topped the they definitely topped the Admiral EJ1M. They kind of took that top spot. I did a repaint of Sergeant Drake, that's a really fun model to do as well. Let's see, what are other really fun ones? Yeah, the Eisenex are definitely just really good. The Roly Boys, here's Roland here, I painted up really fun, really easy. I like these new models more than some of the other models, just because they have really fun poses, and I love all the models. I love all the figures and all the pieces. But I like models with big silvery armor plates and big poses. Those are just you can knock those out pretty fast and do some fun things with them. Um, Probably will soon be topped by Maladrix. I'm really looking forward to painting that. Just there's some really fun color techniques you can do with that. Um, just the blues and the greens. You can do some color shifting, and yeah, I'm excited about those guys. All the bugs. And now I'm using actually two thin coats of Vampire Paint because I couldn't find the appropriate color of speed paint. So I'm just going to use this off-white for the fur. I've been using a lot more two thin coat paints. They have really great whites. If you're looking for like white paint that has really great coverage and spread, definitely recommend checking them out. They have some really good colors. And they work good with spray paints too, I have discovered. That you can do a lot of fun stuff with their paints and spray paints. I am not a brand loyalist. I am I pick and choose from as many paints as I can get my hands on. Although I do like some more than others. And I wonder what the World of Noxdorma looks like. It has the bears and the Rolly Beats and the Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, it's an interesting place. I'm really curious to discover how this and this kind of coincide. What's their relation and their story together? Because we haven't seen any lore of the Eisenecks kind of land side. Um, I'm secretly hoping that like the Vorid are secretly the evil guys and they made the Eiseneck, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's fanon. That is not canon. uh, but yeah, I'm really curious about their stories and I really want to know more about them. Uh, and I guess I'll just have to be patient. Yeah, this is a really easy model to paint though too. It's nice and relaxing. Like I've been paying attention this whole time here. Yeah, Exterminate is a very interesting place. I love how they just have like these little animal critter guys that like have very big personalities. They're all very proud of themselves, or proud warriors, or braggadocious, or daring daredevils. They're I just think it's kind of funny. I do wonder what the extent of Noxdorma's kind of limit is. Like, will we get amphibians or reptiles from there? I'm not sure. I'm really hoping for like an axolotl squad. I think that would be pretty fun. In my mind, my head canon, mind you, I imagine that like the amphibians live on Noxdorma's kind of like swamps and stuff like that, and they're actually like spellcasters. Like they've deviated away from the the science aspect and more just are focused on like the natural attunement of life. So you have like mage mage amphibians on the planet, but that's probably crossing over with the other wizards and stuff like that we have. So probably not. But I think it would be fun to have some like technocasters and stuff like that are also amphibians. Aren't the Eisenek from a far future of Noxtorma where the planet was destroyed? Allegedly. I don't know. I I think there's going to be some kind of big twist with the the uh, the Eisenek. Because there's got to be a point where the Eisenek and the Vorids coexisted, right? Like, I think the units we have are from a planet that no longer exists. But I think there's potential for storytelling for Vorids to be, and because you got to think, who are the Vorids fighting against, and who are the Eiseneks equipped for war for? You know, like uh, you have the Iron Lich, who's a warlord. What's what war is he a lord over? Type of deal. And I think there's some stories to tell. I like the idea that they are summoned from a depleted planet. You know, the question is, do they always exist or were they created? And maybe we'll find out someday. Okay, so we're gonna get some of this brown. I think this is leather brown I have on my palette here, and add these to the straps just for a another pop of color on this thing. Yeah, the wiki says the distant future or the past, which is incredibly unhelpful. I think it's both. I'm not going to elaborate more, but I think there's more to the Noxtormans. We're we aren't getting like any straight answers about them. I think that's intentional. I think there's some kind of like they're such a big menacing presence. You know, like I'm hoping that it's something timey wimey or interesting. But I'm excited to see where the story goes. Like the Hellforge bio is really interesting to me. That they just have this really hungry hippo on board that just gets so hangry it eats everything. Because I can relate to that. I can. That is a mood I have. And now, for if you notice, there's actually a nose ring that Irene has because she's punk like that. So I'm gonna put this brown here because brown is a good way to build up to gold. Uh, Fills in the shadows very well of it. We're gonna pretty much cover it, so it won't matter. But if I missed any spots, at least it'll look like it's kind of like a shadow of it. Where is my greedy gold? Greedy gold is one of my favorites. Golds. I think we can all agree that spaceships do not just poof into existence. Yeah, I mean, usually something makes a spaceship. I think it's going to be from like Noxtorman's own like greed or avarice created the Eiseneks. I think it would be a really good twist on the story. Like you think these guys are like conquerors, but they're kind of like rampant experiments from the Vorids. I think that would be a really cool way to look at it. Um, or maybe they just were drifting in space, and the Vorids found them, and they utilized them for their own missions. I think it'd be fun if the Vorids, like these cute cuddly animals, were maybe not the most moral. Like, I think it's because we don't know anything about Valerak. We don't know necessarily that she's a good general at this point, or anything about her. She may be more morally ambiguous, but she's probably going to be good. Hungry Health Forge. I'm working on a shirt actually, a personal shirt I'd like to make uh, with that design. I'm just gonna have to paint 4 Hellforges is the only problem, but or just use Photoshop manipulation. You know, I guess that would be easier. I'm really excited. My sister gave me an early Christmas present. Did some custom arts for the for me. She drew like the two Raylins, the evil Raylan, the good Raylan, back to back, kind of ready for battle, which is pretty cool. I'll maybe post it in my Discord or the Renegade server. Uh, and then she also drew a Krug with glasses called Krug Life. So I'm excited to print those for myself. Uh, and Renegade, we do need some holiday Christmas sweaters. Heroscape Christmas sweaters is what I would love. Just imagine design with like hexes and the skull symbols and stuff like that. That's my all I want for Christmas. Because you all kind of caught me on an off day, but if I had a bit more time to prep, I'd be wearing a very ugly Christmas sweater right now and Santa hat, the whole nine yards. But fortunately, the week kind of caught up with me before I had a chance to do any of that kind of prep. Okay, now we're gonna take that aqua mist we put on our palette a little ago, and I kind of forgot because I started talking about the Eisenex, and we'll take that to the higher ups. Yes, that's a that's the best. All right, and very carefully we are gonna. What eye do we? This one right here has a little bit of a scratch. Two. There. And then for the other eye, so we just put a small dot of color in here just to make it look like it's uh, have been blinded from years of battle. And now we're going to get this Terrestrial Titan, a very dark purple, and put that over the other eye. Just to give it a bit of gleam. Now you could keep these eyes black. I just want a bit of color to these, just subtle. It's very dark purple. Go. And with a very thin brush, we are going to try not to ruin our painting and line in these teeth a bit to really make them pop. Just kind of fill in the spaces between them. The lining around the mouth. Seagull's neck shape is pretty iconic in lieu of snowflakes. Pit marker. Yeah. Yeah, I would love it. I would I rock the ugly sweaters. You notice I'm kind of rolling the brush. That removes a lot of the excess, so it's not like little danglies on the side. The definition of some of these teeth a bit more prominent. Using pure white, just on the outer edge. Take that bold titanium white on this eye area, just really add some inherent texture here. A Christmas tree with the Valkyrie generals, the ornaments. I've been thinking about this since October. That's a pretty good idea. Oh, Valkyrie tree. Oh, Valkyrie tree. I'm down for it. Now I'm just adding an extra layer of this white to the face, just to some very key spots here. That's ultimately our final highlight. Just to add some texture. Je ne sais quoi. The final thing, just really want to highlight some of this fur, this raised edges here. If you notice that the paint goes a bit too bright, you can take one of those lighter grays we used and thinly kind of blend it, and lots of water, kind of just have it flow onto it, so it kind of fills that area in a bit better. You notice you start building things up too high, don't be afraid to kind of take the darker color and then bring it back down. Valkyrie, yeah, that was low hanging fruit. Why did I get that? Beta Wolf. That's 3 points for Beta Wolf. I have a degree in penology. I mean, like, I should have got that. And I took some of this darker tone, and I'm just kind of adding it to some areas where I want a bit more shadow. I'm going to grab Bloody Red from Game Color and mix it in with a bit of brown for the scar. More red than brown, though. Color around like that. Trying to decide how bright I want the scar here. So I'm going to fill that in. Irene needs some battle damage, you know. That's that's a given. And then I'm going to grab some ivory. Pro Grill. 12 days of Heroscape Miss. Let's see here. So on the first day of Heroscape, the Valkyries gave to me. I have to remember what they all are on the first day of Heroscape. Oh, a bright and shiny new Wellspring, or something like that. We can go from there. Second, it's you know what? Just 12 days of Christmas is too many, too many days. We're taking this ivory, by the way, and just adding a bit of dry brush. We're gonna bring this down a bit with some wash. Then wash. Now I'm using a true glue. I wait for that to dry. Not with my tiny brush, because that's how you ruin your tiny brush. And just kind of bringing out these raised surfaces here. Being a little bit rough with it, using a lot of brush strokes to add some texture to it. And I'm going to clean all this up later. I'm just trying to get to a relatively finished point so we can show off the model. And on the second day of Heroscape Miss, Valkyries gave to me I don't remember them all. I don't remember the tune of the song. I am woefully cursed with the inability to memorize musical lyrics. So that's my biggest weakness as a human being. But I'm going in my head trying to think of. Because as a kid, I used to think that the first one was a pig with arthritis in the knee. That's. I said, Mom, why does she want a pig with arthritis in the knee for Christmas? And I'm mixing a bit of that light gray with that blue black that we're using. It's a little bit bright, but I'm going to bring it back down. Jackets, scratches, damage. And looking for my last colors to get some initial blending going, and we will call it a day here. Alright, I'm going to use some blue tone from Army Painter, just to kind of blend these colors in a bit. I like Army Painter washes because they do very well excel at kind of acting as a filter and as blending. So if you notice, I kind of did this kind of messy, but this, we're able just to blend these colors together and keep that inherent texture, which I like. And just my dark tone here. Then we're going to use dark tone for the metallics and the back jacket. Make those kind of nice and grungy. I'm going to go through and fill in these details of the gauntlets. I kind of just realized I forgot to do that. At a later time. About at time here, so I'm trying to get this done, at least what we can done, as fast as possible. And then I'm going to use some flesh wash mixed in with that dark tone. Easier method is just to use strong tone. But I don't know what that is right now, so my kid stole it. And thinly apply that to the fur here. Of course, after all this dries, you may want to go through and layer up above this. That's what I'm going to do to brighten up some of these colors. Oh, you're trying to leave us. Yeah, no, I'm not trying. I could do this all night. But there we go. Okay, so this is a very quick rundown of some fun steps on the on Knight Irene. Of course, we're going to wait for this wash to dry, and we're going to build up these colors a bit more, and re-add another highlights to this. Add some silver highlights to the gauntlet plating, and just kind of tidy up this all. Work on the teeth a bit more. And add some final texture and detail, but hopefully this gives you a good step up if you're trying to paint your mini polar bears, as all these steps are transferable, and you can use them for really any white fur you're using. So there we go. We got Irene here, looking good, looking ready for battle. And And yeah, I hope everyone has a happy holidays, had a great Thanksgiving. Definitely be on the lookout for more stuff from me and Renegade, and we are going to be taking a break from many Mondays, at least on the Heroscape side, through the holidays, and we'll be planning on starting fresh come New Year. And if you haven't, be sure to check out the scenario that just dropped. Some really fun stuff there as we get into the mind of Sodland, who craves the forbidden knowledge. Doesn't really want the forbidden knowledge, he just doesn't want anyone to destroy it. And yeah, you all keep on painting, you all keep on scaping, and yeah, you all take care. Lack of anything else to say, that's going to be it for me today. Bye.